Well, I'm not sure I expected it, but the Eagles just made Saquon Barkley the highest paid running back in NFL history. Now, obviously, it's completely well-deserved, but it looks like there's an even bigger reason for Howie getting that one done early. Plus, James Bradberry was released, and the cap room is only continuing to go up for the Birds. So let's talk about what moves are coming next, which other extensions could be in the works, and what message Philly just sent to the entire free agent market. By the way, it's definitely not that they're open to trading A.J. Brown, so we'll talk about that too. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Well, let's just jump right into it after the Eagles definitely made a statement with their last move. After Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie offered Saquon Barkley a 2-year extension worth $41.2 million, along with $36 million of that guaranteed. Which, for the record, with that deal, that makes Barkley the first $20 million plus per year running back in NFL history. And not only that, but Saquon can earn an additional $15 million in incentives and escalators. But whenever you look into it, there was no question that clearly the number one playmaker in the league plays on the Eagles. I mean, let's be honest, number 26 clearly deserves it. Heck, he could have very easily broken Eric Dickerson's all-time rushing record and still had one of the best seasons ever by a ball carrier while proving just about unstoppable all throughout the playoffs. Like, this dude had more 50-yard plays this season than 28 teams did. Yes, you heard me right. Think about that. 28 teams were not as explosive as one guy for Philly. So sure, even though it's rare for a team to reward a guy 1 year into a 3-year deal, and in the same league year that they signed him initially, it makes all the sense in the world for why they do this. By the way, before we get to why that is, we're going to celebrate, as we only do on this channel, because Saquon is here long-term, obviously, and could honestly retire as an Eagle. So drop a like on this video, and then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Where after you do that, go down to the comments section and let me hear your takeaways from this recent move by Howie. Because I'll be selecting one lucky subscriber to win a signed full-size Saquon Barkley Super Bowl helmet as soon as the channel gets to 120,000 subscribers. So hit that sub button and good luck to you. Also, good luck to the rest of the league. Because as we know, Howie doesn't do anything that isn't well calculated. And honestly, this is just standard operating procedure for the Birds. FYI, for those a bit unsure, this move with Barkley, A, keeps their cap fluid and controllable, B, rewards players with upfront cash, and C, maybe most importantly, is noticed by every player and agent throughout the league at the most opportune time. Seriously, we're a week away from free agency, and what do you think Myles, Garrett, Zack Baun, or any other free agent are thinking when they see this move? The message is, if you perform well in Philly, then you will get rewarded, regardless of what conventional wisdom says to wait or not pay up front early. And this, again, is what has the rest of the league seemingly always playing catch-up to whatever else Howie Roseman is cooking up. Like, the other part to this, getting back to Saquon, is that when just about the rest of the league was devaluing running backs, Philly took advantage of that true market inefficiency. For real, consider that over 20 wide receivers were making more than $20 million a year and running backs were at a completely different level. Now, obviously, the Eagles have addressed it, but still, even after this move, think about this. Saquon Barkley, the highest paid running back, will make $15 million less than the top receivers in the NFL. And yet Philly signs all their guys, but you still have teams like the Cincinnati Bengals who see how many star players the Eagles are signing and wonder why on earth they can't figure out a way to get it done.
You understand the cap.
I mean, not really, kind of.
Because we don't think that it exists.
Way more than we do.
Yeah.
Well, definitely some teams seem to make it feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints have just pretended it doesn't exist for a while now.
And the Eagles are paying everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that seems like the way, whatever they're doing.
Okay, we talked about this a couple times, but shout out to Brett Coleman, because for people thinking that this hurts the Eagles or they overpaid, they did not. With Brett sharing that reminder, Jeffrey Lurie has hundreds upon hundreds of millions of liquid capital right now. Remember, he sold a very minor stake in the team to get a lot of that capital. Therefore, he can make the majority of Saquon's deal guaranteed, and how he can manipulate the cap hit however he wants to with void years shenanigans like he always does. Plus, when you start digging into the numbers, this is exactly what is suggested might start happening thanks to the salary cap about to explode in 2028 or 2029, thanks to a recent Nielsen report saying they'll be changing how they measure ratings, with the NFL leaning into data from streaming services and traditional TV viewing. Now, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again, at least in this video, but you can feel free to check out one of the last ones. Basically, the most important thing to remember here is that the salary cap is going to astronomically explode in 2029. And look, I don't always just want to freak out about every move, but this one feels extremely significant, because Howie is clearly pushing all his chips on the table. Even more so with the Enquirer's Jeff McClain saying he wouldn't be surprised to get the announcement of Lane Johnson having a contract reworked in order to give the Birds more immediate salary cap space, leaving Cowboys reporter Jeff Kavanaugh to say this lines up with like every other player whose void money will hit the Eagles in 2029, and that Howie's all-in is all-in gets on a big ol' half-decade window. Except that, honestly, is the bad news for everyone else. That's the worst-case scenario, a half-decade window to win now.
No, this time we really up.
Personally, I think we all know enough about Howie Roseman's wizardry in managing the cap to recognize even when everyone else thinks the Eagles set themselves up to win now or pay later, all that realistically happens is Philly keeps pushing those payment dates later on down the road and stacking the roster. Anyway, let's just say this. I don't think there's any question now, seeing these moves, what Howie's doing, that he's really trying to set the table for some big moves coming up. I'm going to say Zack Baun, Mekhi Becton, and I've kind of maintained Isaiah Rodgers. But how about you guys? If you had to pick, choose which names, which guys, which players, is it, internally probably first with the Eagles, but what are the 2 or 3 moves you expect to come in the next few days? By the way, my Myles Garrett prediction of 10 to 15% is definitely up now to, I'd say, 30% given all that's transpired recently. However, the main hesitancy is that first the Browns need to agree to play ball and trade Garrett. Although considering their situation in cap hell, it wouldn't be all that surprising to see them not get a trade done until after the draft. Either way, whatever big moves Howie has up his sleeves, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn the notifications on, because as soon as that happens, we will be going live. Of course, when it comes to moves that already took place, the Birds did officially cut ties with James Bradberry, with the release being designated as a post-June 1st move and frees up about $2.1 million in cap space. And no matter how you feel about JB, I absolutely wish him well in his future endeavors. Look, even though he didn't see the field and was dealing with an injury, there can't be a question about him being a leader and professional behind the scenes. But I think it's pretty clear that the Eagles are turning a page with a new cast of leadership and a defense that has the biggest potential in possibly the entire league. And yet, reminder, this is the same group that ranked as the #1 defense last season. Granted, there are some who, for whatever reason, are trying to make Philly's losses seem bigger than they actually are.
Now, when you lose Darius Slay, here's why it's a big deal. Because now you might end up losing 2 starters on defense. Because if you lose Slay, that's 1 starter at cornerback. If you take Cooper DeJean and move him from nickel to cornerback, now you lost your starting nickel. The Eagles' most consistently inconsistent position has been cornerback.
I get it. This is one of those takes to say something polarizing. Because come on, bro, ain't no way Cooper DeJean's moving away from the slot. If anything, you're keeping him there and then signing Isaiah Rodgers or rolling with Ringo or maybe even drafting a guy for competition. Regardless, Howie learned his lesson, and I'm sorry, but the secondary is the least of my concerns, even if this is actually goodbye to Slay. Now, as for the D-line, as I've maintained and based on other reports, Milton Williams and Josh Sweat seem unlikely to return. And seeing the Dallas Cowboys sign their defensive tackle Osa Odigizua to a 4-year, $80 million contract with $58 million guaranteed kind of feels like a similar range for Milton. In case you were curious, Williams actually had a half sack more than Odigizua, but both players are within 1 year of each other in age and have shown there's definitely some potential. So again, it'd be great for a reunion to happen. I think everybody's on board for that, but you think about Moro Jomo being there for the Eagles, then the Myles Garrett option, some other potentials for free agency, the draft is involved. I'm just going to continue to caution, it does not feel very likely that Milton Williams is returning. But the next move to continue to keep an eye out for is Cam Jurgens, because by getting a deal done there, you can lock him up long-term and decrease the cap hit by several million. And then even though it might seem early, several people have thrown out the idea of a Jalen Hurts extension as well. After all, Saquon just got rewarded early into his contract, so perhaps Howie and Jeffrey Lurie want to free up some more cash by locking down the franchise QB even longer. Either way, like Anthony DeBona said, keep an eye out for Dallas Goedert, because he's 30 years old and heading into the final year of his contract, meaning 1, they could sign him to an extension to lower his cap hit, or 2, they could try to trade him and get younger at tight end. Also, I should mention this because I got a couple questions on this topic, but teams are only allowed 2 post-June 1st designations, so with Darius Slay and JB already getting those designations, you can guarantee yourself there won't be any surprises as far as that goes. Anyway, the tight end conversation is interesting to me, although despite talking about the Raiders' Michael Mayer in a recent episode, it appears that might not be as likely for Philly, with recent updates citing the New England Patriots as a very realistic trade partner and that conversations are being had there. Also, speaking of the Patriots, there seems to be this rumor going around that New England is making a push to trade for A.J. Brown, based on the fact that A.J. and new head coach Mike Vrabel have a good relationship. And, well, this random rumor started up by New England radio.
Is the dream dead for A.J. Brown? I know he just won the Super Bowl, but he is the most connected to Mike Vrabel.
I love that.
I mean, it's a crazy offseason. Could that happen?
I love A.J. Brown, and I love the fact that you actually are sensible enough to go back to A.J. Brown instead of barking up the T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, both and Ayuk, who are just not going to happen. A.J. Brown is a much more reasonable get. Why would the Eagles divorce themselves from him?
Exactly. They won't and they aren't. But this is, speculation, rumor season. All it takes really is throw a name out there, people take it, they run with it like wildfire. Granted, yes, Matthew Berry included his post-NFL Combine takeaways saying the Patriots called Philly to ask if A.J. Brown was available or what the asking price might be.
I worry what you just heard was, give me a lot of bacon and eggs. What I said was, give me all the bacon and eggs you have.
Come on, this dude is in his prime, and AJ said so many different times that Philly is where he wants to be. So please, let's not get worked up about all this. New England is welcome to call, it's just the Eagles won't be listening.
Yeah, it's me again. I was away from my desk for a minute, just checking in case you called while I was gone.
Look, I don't blame the Patriots for wanting to get as many Eagles as they can, and I will say that at least this Milton Williams rumor is a little more believable.
I'm hearing the Patriots are big time in on Milton, and I am big time in on Milton. He is a game wrecker, game changer on the inside. For all you want to say about, and Jalen Carter's great, and Jordan Davis is, a good role player. But, Milton Williams, you could argue, was the best defender on the Eagles defensive line during their, postseason run. And so, those are the type of guys that Vrabel is looking for.
Okay, clearly Greg Bedard didn't watch closely enough because I'm a big Milton Williams fan, but come on, there was nobody that played better than Jalen Carter on the defensive line. Sure, from a stats perspective, Williams put up more numbers, but the Breadman was doubled over half the time, whereas Milt was doubled just 36% of pass rushes all season. I mean, regardless, he'll be good and is no doubt getting a massive contract. Plus, after he's likely swooped up by another squad, there's a very realistic possibility that Philly could end up having 5 draft picks within the first 3 rounds of the 2026 NFL Draft. So whether he goes, whether he stays, honestly, no matter how you slice it, the birds are sitting pretty. For now, let's just appreciate the fact that this is the greatest organization with the best GM in football, and I can't wait for the next move. So we'll see what it is. Until next time, this has been the Philly Special.